Hello, it's the Aesthetic again. This time I'll be covering the power of darkness. Although Reign of Darkness may be a more accurate translation. It is also known as If a Claw is Caught, the Bird is Lost. It is a play written by Lev Nikolayevich Tolstoy, detailing some of the worst happenings to be found in the Russian village. The story is prefaced by the 28th and 29th verses of the 5th chapter from the Gospel of Matthew. It is easy to see the parallel between them and the second name of the play. Summary. The main character of the story is Nikita, a laborer for a well-off but sick peasant named Pyotr Ignatievich. The latter's wife, Anisia, is unhappy with her husband and has an affair with Nikita. Due to his parents arriving at their house to discuss the marriage plans his father had with him and an orphan girl who claimed that he had committed an offense against her, Anisia receives an opportunity to discuss this fact with Nikita's mother, Matrona, who, wishing for her son to inherit the homestead and wealth, gives her poison and instructs to keep adding it to Pyotr's tea to slowly kill him, and furthermore uses poor health as the cover for its effects. As half a year passes, Pyotr is on death's door. The plot of the two women is successful, as they take his money and Nikita marries Anisia, becoming the new master of the house. Soon afterwards, however, they have a falling out, with Nikita having an affair with the eldest daughter of Pyotr, Akulina, eventually getting her pregnant. Character analysis. A few of the characters deserve a deeper look, it being necessary to understand their motives and to see the themes they represent. Nikita. Nikita is a somewhat morally ambiguous character. His role is more so negative, but he is distinctly shown to have an active conscience. Unlike his wife and mother, he pities Pyotr before the latter's death and is horrified at the thought of certain actions that he is pushed towards doing. He still goes through with them, but is subsequently shaken to his core and becomes increasingly unhappy with life. His role in the story is therefore that of the repenting sinner, who is able to return to God's good graces. Anisia, the wife of Pyotr and later on Nikita, she is hateful and egoistic. She lashes out against Pyotr for not working despite his failing health, and is willing to kill him for personal benefit. Possessing a slight amount of guilt over the poisoning, she stops after a few doses, but later resolves to administer the final one. She is jealous of Akulina, who becomes Nikita's favorite after she herself stops being of interest to him. The events that transpire seem to have little to no negative effect on her psyche. Matrona, the most morally bankrupt of all the characters. Her only ambition in the story is to assure her son's success in life, no matter the cost. Having an unassuming heir to her, she in fact possesses a great deal of low cunning. She is the instigator of the murder of Pyotr and the mastermind behind the plot to steal his possessions in favor of Nikita. Seemingly on good terms with Anisia, in truth she uses the latter as well. She is also the only one not shown to have any hesitation or regret in the face of depraved actions. Aside from the aforementioned, she is shown to have little regard for religion, invoking God regardless of her own actions in the moment. In antithesis to her son, she represents the unrepentant sinner. Akulina, the elder of Pyotr's two daughters, and not the one from Anisia. She is on poor terms with her stepmother and is distrustful of her. After her father's death, she begins to usurp Anisia's position in the family by having an affair with Nikita. Mitrich, a former soldier who signs up as Nikita's work hand. He is timid and not willing to intervene, even if he considers what is being done as villainous. He is of a cynical worldview and doesn't hold humanity to a high standard, justifying with this the fact that he once again turned to alcoholism at the end, as a way to cope, something that used to be systematically beaten out of him in the military. Akim, Nikita's father. He is in many ways the complete opposite of his wife. Unlike her, intelligent but operating without regard for morality, he is somewhat dull of mind, but with thought permeated with morality and regard for following the tenets of Christianity. For example, he is the one who desires that Nikita marry the orphan Marina, due to their previous romance. Rot. The central theme of the play is the downward spiral of morality. Once someone commits something that is considered a sin and does not repent before God, it is inevitable that they will sin again. Anicia poisons her husband and later commits further crime, having some doubt about the former act, but none about the latter, as it is easier the second time. Nikita has doubts about Pyotr's death, but doesn't look further into it. He has an affair with the orphan girl Marina, and then leaves her, despite making promises to marry. Has an affair with Anicia, marries her but quickly loses his passion and pursues an affair with Akulina. Near the very end, having lost interest in the other two women, he tries to once again awake Marina's feelings for him, despite her already being married. Therefore, the process is cyclical. Sin breeds sin. The end result of such a process in the story is Matrona. Parallels with reality. More spoilers are present from this point onwards. Rather surprisingly, this story is not purely fictitious, but is highly inspired and even based off of a real event that occurred near Tula, Russia. In fact, it is rather censored in comparison. The real-life inspiration for Nikita was Efraim Koloskov, a peasant married to an older woman named Marta Ionova, who had a daughter from a previous marriage. Just like in The Power of Darkness, the daughter, named Yelena, had a child from him, and he then murdered it. There are, however, a few differences, including key ones. Yelena was his step rather than foster daughter. Furthermore, their contact was not voluntary. He murdered his child and planned to marry Yelena off. During the wedding day, struck by guilt, he couldn't force himself to give his blessing to the couple and hid away. As a teenage girl approached to call him over, Ephraim, overtaken with anger, grabbed a nearby shaft and beat her to death with it. Afterwards, confessing his guilt, he witnessed as his 6-year-old daughter Euphemia was crying over his words. As it is assumed, motivated by a warped form of parental care, not wanting his daughter to be alone and cry over him when he is gone, he grabbed a stake and bashed her over the head, attempting to murder her as well. The attempt failed, and he was arrested. In the process of the investigation, his wife Marta was also tried, with collaboration in the murder, as the spouses had came to a consensus on what to do with the newborn. Although, unlike in Ephraim's case, she is guilty of less than her theatrical counterpart, not having poisoned her previous husband. Both of them were sentenced to hard labor. Story of the play's creation. The case was made known to Tolstoy by his friend Nikolai Vasilievich Davidov, a prosecutor in the Tula governorate. Tolstoy became highly interested in it and even personally spoke to Koloskov twice. A few years after, while wounded from an accident, Tolstoy wrote The Power of Darkness, intending to have it be played in various theaters and published for common reading. Furthermore, also doing readings of it to large groups of peasants, although this did not have the intended reaction, with the audiences failing to grasp the meaning of the play. Due to the bleak atmosphere and its ruthless portrayal of reality, various censorship boards had attempted to block it. The matter escalated until, eventually, due to the strings that some of Tolstoy's friends had pulled, it was brought up to the Emperor Alexander III himself, who initially approved of it, seeing it as a depressing but masterful work. This, however, did not last for long, as Konstantin Petrovich Pobedonostsov, the Ober-Procurator of the most holy governing synod of Russia, who was dedicated in his fight against all he deemed amoral, saw in it an affront to the ideals they attempted to cultivate. He wrote a heated letter to Alexander, inquiring as to why it would be permitted, convincing the latter to turn back on his previous resolution. It would still be allowed to be distributed in writing, but not to be staged. To try to get it through the net of censorship, Tolstoy made multiple changes, but these were seen as superficial at best, not altering the core of the narrative, which was considered to be of much greater importance than the wrapping it would find itself in. The ban would continue until the reign of Emperor Nicholas II, who lifted it with a personal decree. Soon afterwards, it became a favorite of many theaters in the Russian Empire and later in Soviet Russia, and was published in multiple other languages, although remaining less known than his other works. Final thoughts. It is certainly masterfully written and has a uniquely grim and seemingly hopeless atmosphere, although one has to accept the strictly Christian angle that Tolstoy tries to convey, which uses, or perhaps even exploits, the tragic events in order to preach his spiritual and moral views.